guys, Holly Browning here from the Lebanon Public Library. Thanks for joining me today for Family Research Tips and Tricks. Today we're going to be talking land records, and land records are one of the most underutilized sources for genealogy and family history research. And I think one of the reasons that is due to the fact that they can be very wordy and very complicated. The English language has definitely changed and progressed over the years, especially from the 18th century. So they can be kind of hard to read and kind of hard to understand. And I know that would be one of the reasons why I tended to look up land records maybe lastly in my research, which is kind of a mistake because you're going to want to see what those records contain, because usually they contain quite a bit of wealth of information, such as pinpointing residence, identifying the wealth of your ancestors, siblings of ancestors, military records, and that's going to come into play with what I'm going to talk about here in a second. One of the greatest draws to this land in America, obviously, was the right to own your land. And in the older established countries, such as England, the law was the first male heir inherits land, period. And you just had to do with that as you could. In America, you could do with it as you wish. You could split, divide, and sell among all your children, split it among your children. It was just obviously the idea of owning your own land and it actually being yours to do as you wish would be a huge draw. And I think that's why, America grew so much. We had so much to offer. So available land records can vary from different time frames, but there's usually around two different types, okay? And they are a patent and a deed. And the primary difference is who's doing the granting and who's doing the selling, okay? With a patent, like there is usually like a military issued patent, and that's actually what I have pulled up on the screen here. And what that is these were government issued from veterans of the American Revolution and the Mexican War. And veterans were, instead of being compensated with money, they were compensated with military bounty lands. And basically, you did service in the military, you got yourself some land. And, that it's a good deal. This is the actual older document here. On the top it says Land Office Military Warrant. It has the Commonwealth of Virginia. And it has the name here. The name would be William Grimes. It says his heirs, the quantity of 200 acres of land in consideration of his services for 3 years in the Continental Army. So that is that's the example of the kind of military land warrant there. The other one is just your primary deed. And what a deed's a written legal document, obviously, that transfers ownership of a property from one person to another. And this one is usually like between private parties, not so much issued from the government. If it's issued from the government, it's usually issued as a grant first, and then it becomes a deed between private parties. Now these usually have, let me magnify this a little bit, these usually have a standard wording, okay? They're going to have the date of sale, and obviously on this one here it does have the date of sale. It says in Springfield, Missouri, August 3rd, 1807. It gives the name that is written in, the county and state, and then it gives in the acres, okay, and the amount it's paid for. And there's going to obviously be witnesses and signatures, and it's pretty much standard the same. There are times where it goes into, it's a lot wordier, and it'll go into 20 paces from the oak tree. It can get really complicated, but that's how they that's how they surveyed the land. That's how they knew, what you would owe as opposed to your neighbor. So where to find these? If you're searching online, usually each state has a genealogy records page, and it'll be under land or property records, or you can search any of the genealogical databases such as Ancestry or MyHeritage. They usually have a list of land and property records. And you know, if it's not online, you can always call the county clerk's office at the county and see what you can find. People still do use the telephone, so and I promise you that, you know, you're going to want to dig into these land records because you will find information that you wouldn't think that you would find, and it really is interesting, and it's worth kind of digging up this treasure trove of information. So that's all I have for you today, so thanks again, and join me again in 2 weeks.